Greetings and salutations. I'm Madison, and in today's episode of In the Wardrobe, we will be looking at the clothes worn by the classic Disney villainess Cruella de Vil. Cruella de Vil has always been one of my favorite Disney villains, and since there was a new Cruella film that has just been released, I thought it would be fun to deep dive into the history of Cruella, show some of her developments, and I wanted to do something to commemorate a very brilliant costume designer, Anthony Powell, who unfortunately also passed away this year. I hope that you enjoy this video. I hope that you watch it all the way through because there's a lot of interesting details and information culminating to the big reveal, my big critique of the new Cruella film at the end. Cruella de Vil was first conceived in the mind of English writer Dodie Smith, after a friend of Dodie's commented on her pet Dalmatians, saying, "Those dogs would make a lovely fur coat." Thus Cruella, a fur-crazed woman who becomes obsessed with making a dogskin coat, was born. Dodie featured Cruella in two of her novels, the Hundred and One Dalmatians, which was published in 1956, and the 𝓟𝓪𝓰𝓮𝓼, which was published in 1967. Illustrations for both books were done by twin artists Janet and Anne Johnston. In the original story, Cruella is depicted as a tall, glamorous heiress with dark eyes and black and white hair. She always wears a glamorous white mink cloak, skin-tight satin gowns, and ropes of jewels like pearls and rubies. Though she appears to be wealthy, she is in fact heavily in debt and is married to a furrier, whom she married solely for his occupation so that she could wear his stock of furs. In addition to her husband, she has a white Persian cat, whom she treats as a living accessory. Both in the description of Cruella and in the illustrations, she is depicted as an ill-tempered, unstable, rather vampiric character. For instance, when Mr. Dearly comments that she might find her mink cloak too warm for the summer evening, Cruella just laughs and says that she never finds anything too warm. She's constantly stoking roaring fires and always complains of being cold, despite the unbearable summer heat. Even her sheets and curtains are made of fur. In the end of the book, Cruella's plot is foiled, and her pet Persian destroys all of Cruella's furs, thus ruining her husband's business. When Cruella discovers the destruction, the black side of her hair goes white, and the white side goes an off-green shade from the shock. In Smith's 1967 sequel, The 𝓟𝓪𝓰𝓮𝓼, Cruella has dyed her hair back to its normal black and white state, and has since lost her obsession with fur, replacing all of her coats, sheets, and anything previously in fur with metallic plastic versions, which I think sort of echoes the obsession with plastic that happened in the late 1960s and would continue into the 1970s and 80s. When Walt Disney read Dodie Smith's story in 1956, he immediately snapped up the film rights, and the animated film 101 Dalmatians was released in 1961. Both Walt and the screenwriter Bill Peet kept in close contact with Dodie during the 5-year process of making the film, even sending her some sketches of the characters. Dodie was delighted and had hoped when writing her novel that Disney would make it into a film. She felt that Disney Studios improved her story and that the designs looked even better than the illustrations in her book. In the film, Cruella's image was reworked a little. Early sketches show that she was going to be a beautiful young woman with sharp but attractive features. By the end of production, she was transformed into a much older-looking woman with a rail-thin figure and extreme jutting cheekbones. The man most responsible for her new image was the animator Mark Davis, who also was the sole person that was responsible for animating Cruella. In both the films and in the book, Cruella was inspired by the eccentric actress Tallulah Bankhead. Inspiration in the film was also taken from Bette Davis's character in All About Eve, Rosalind Russell's character in Auntie Mame, and Zsa Zsa Gabor, who was known for wearing giant fabulous fur coats. Mark Davis also had two live and in-person inspirations. The first was Mary Wickes, who gave live performances for Mark, giving him an idea of how the character's body and face should move. The other inspiration was actress Betty Lou Gerson, who provided the voice of Cruella. Mark cited her as a great influence, commenting that her vocal performance suggested that this character was bigger than life, high in energy, and like a shark, always moving. After all that work, Cruella was now transformed into a loud, skeletal creature smoking constantly from her jade green cigarette holder. In this film, Cruella only has two costumes. One is a black dress with an enormous white mink coat, jade green accessories, red gloves, and red shoes. The other is a black fur-trimmed dressing gown. Both outfits help highlight Cruella in the film's frame. The white coat gives her a giant, overpowering presence, while the black dressing gown makes her stand out in her messy, garishly colored bedroom, giving her a cold, menacing feel combined with her makeupless gray complexion. One of the most crucial parts of Cruella and her costume are those bright pops of red. That red lining peeking and flashing with every movement accentuated the mood of the character and gave the coat a direct connection to her personality and mood. That red symbolizes the sinister undertones hiding just beneath the surface. Without that pop of red, Cruella loses that balance, that spark, and her movement loses that fluidity which catches the attention of the eye so well.
One of the most fun assignments I've ever had in the studio was doing the villainess in Hundred and One Dalmatians, Cruella de Vil. She was a funny villainess, and while what she was doing wasn't very nice, she herself was an entertaining character. You know, there were certain personality traits that she had. You never could get her to listen to anything. I know several such people. They do all the talking and never listen, and we all know people of that sort.
Do you understand?
Next, we are going to be talking about the live-action films 101 Dalmatians from 1996 and 102 Dalmatians from 2000. Cruella was played by the amazing actress Glenn Close, and apparently this was one of her favorite characters to portray. The costumes for both films were done by Anthony Powell and Rosemary Burrows. Previously, Anthony Powell had done costumes for films like Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, Hook, and quite a few period and exotic films. In addition to the costume designers, there were about 10 chief wig makers, hairstylists, and makeup artists. I thoroughly enjoyed 101 Dalmatians, and while the sequel is not as well written, you can still see the thought and time poured into each and every costume for both films.
I'm very lucky to have Anthony Powell designing my costumes. I feel that he will be, oh gosh, at least 75–80% of this character, because she's all look. She's all style. We started working on Cruella's look 3 months before we actually were in front of the camera. So it was very painstaking trial and error, because when you start with a character as brilliant and perfect as the one in the cartoon, you know, you really, we had to decide how far we wanted to go, or exactly what would be the best kind of Cruella. And we refined it down to where she basically is a woman who's capable of being incredibly glamorous, but whose character distorts her face as the movie progresses. So we came up with a face, you know, the shape of the mouth is a little mean, the eyes, you know, the eyebrows, everything was very, very well thought out. And the final thing was the hair, you know, just how punk we could go. And we figured out that the punkier and spikier it was, the more it worked.
Glenn Close uses getting into costume and makeup and hair as the way of becoming that character. I've seen her put on the wig and actually become Cruella like that.
The costumes are the character.
And now let's get to my favorite part, actually examining the costumes. Key signatures of Cruella's look were, of course, furs, as well as other animal-sourced items like feathers, ivory, and bone. Also, an important side note is that all of the furs used in the film are in fact faux, so no animals were actually harmed. A brilliant detail about this version of Cruella is that you actually never see her hands. They are always covered with gloves. This little detail takes away a certain amount of humanness from the character, and it solidifies that uneasy, distant feeling that the rest of the cast has to the character. Each of Cruella's gloves matches perfectly with her outfits, and all of them have claw-like acrylic nails that accentuate every movement her hand makes. The first outfit you see Cruella wearing is one of my favorites. It is a sharp black pinstripe suit with a white contrast lapel. The stripes are done in black beads, while the white lapel is covered with white beads that shimmer like mother of pearl. This is accessorized with a black veiled hat, a black and white fur wrap with matching muff. To balance out the contrasting lapel, on her other side she has this giant bone or ivory brooch that matches the button to close her suit jacket. Specifically, this outfit reminds me of the work of fashion designer Mugler and fashion photographs by Irving Penn. Next is a python and feather gown that reminded me a little bit of 1930s fashion. Some of the dresses that Jean Harlow wore and Ginger Rogers came to mind when I saw this look. This dress was very simply accessorized with just Cruella's cigarette holder and a pair of see-through polka dot gloves. The next outfit is another one of my favorites. It is a zebra print military-inspired coat with a matching muff and hat. Pops of red appear in the gloves, bag, and shoes. I really like the structure of this coat dress with the fluffy sleeves and the very sharp, angularly cut skirt. This outfit reminds me a little bit of an extremely fashionable version of a Cossack's uniform. Next is a tiger print corset top with a leather skirt and matching tiger print cape. You don't get a very close look at this outfit in the film. It flashes on screen very quickly and then immediately flashes off, so you don't really get to see all of the details. One of the things I just noticed when making this video is that the lining in the tiger print cape actually has a leopard print on the inside, which just is an amazing bit of detail that nobody really would notice. The next dress is a python print dress with a more 1950s style silhouette. It has feathers on the top and on the bottom, which create a lovely mermaid hem. I think the biggest star of the show with this outfit is the jewelry. It's so beautiful how it wraps around her neck, how the snake earrings wrap around her ears, and of course the snake bracelet, which wraps all the way around her wrists and up her hands. The last outfit in the film is all red and black. She is wearing this gigantic fur and feather coat that is sort of reminiscent of the animated film because of its sheer size and how it moves. She is wearing a matching furry pillbox hat, a red knit sweater dress, and patent leather red boots. For accessories, she is wearing black gloves, a silver charm bracelet, and a laurel wreath inspired necklace with mismatched earrings. In the second film, Cruella is released from prison after being cured of her obsessive fur-loving ways. This gave the costume designers even more room to play around and just have fun developing Cruella's look. And I think that is what I respect the most about Anthony Powell's work, is that he was professional. He obviously put a lot of time and effort into each costume, and it didn't matter if it was just a children's film. Each one was carefully and lovingly crafted to tell the story, to develop the character, and even to incorporate humor or different emotions that are not just flatly expressed by the actor themselves. The first time you see Cruella in the movie, she is in her prison uniform. Instead of putting her in a normal prison uniform, I like how they thought, let's see how we can ramp it up and make it more outrageous like Cruella. Why don't we put her in a 60s Jackie Onassis inspired prison suit with gold handcuffs instead. Upon her release, you see her wearing this gigantic coat and hat. Underneath is a slim-fitting white dress with black buttons and a black tie at the neck. The back of the dress features a large keyhole cutout, and under each arm features a small cutout as well. Anthony Powell was quoted as saying he wanted her to look like a couture nun to sort of represent her newly reformed behavior. When Cruella visits her parole officer, we get to see another fantastic bit of suiting. This suit is reminiscent of the suit she wore in the first film at the beginning. However, it's much more subdued and less aggressive than the first outfit. The trick was to make Ella still have the personality of her former self, to be dynamic and over the top, but to just change her energy into a more positive direction. With that in mind, Ella wears two coats that are not fur to match her new image. The first is a plastic coat made out of black garbage bags, bubble wrap, and her own House of DeVille shopping bags. The second coat is inspired by an English garden and consists of organza, tulle, and hundreds of pink and white silk roses. The next fabulous outfit we see Ella wearing is this tailored white dress. The details are just exquisite. I know I keep on saying that, but every dress I see, I just am amazed at the construction of it. The buttons are in the shape of dog biscuits. She's wearing fabulous black gloves. Even her jewelry is now pet friendly. Her novelty brooch features a caricature of 2 dogs kissing, and her bracelet features charms of dogs and hearts. Unfortunately, politically correct Cruella's days are numbered. After an unfortunate incident, Cruella slowly starts to peek out of Ella, and this is a masterful bit of costuming. This whole scene is amazing. Originally, the idea was to just see bits of hair spring up as Cruella began escaping from her alter ego, but then Anthony Powell thought it would be fun if her whole outfit changed gradually, transforming itself into something Cruella would wear. The scene opens with Ella wearing a Chanel-inspired suit with giant houndstooth print. She is also wearing gold and pearl accessories. When the transformation begins, shoulder pads spring out of her suit, her white gloves turn into black gloves, black fingernails burst through, the jewelry starts turning into savage black animal claws, and her suit transforms from a matte tweed into a glittering beaded version. The next outfit you see Cruella wearing is a disguise, well, a disguise for Cruella, that is. To quote Anthony Powell, the point of this costume is that nobody knows she's Cruella, so she can be her old self. She is wearing a beautifully tailored suit, which has a dragon running all the way down the back. The whole thing is covered in beading and embroidery, and is complemented with a huge dragon muff. When Cruella returns to the public eye, she is still masquerading as her reformed self, Ella. Even though she's posing as Ella, she just can't help but let a few little peeks of Cruella seep through. Also, this dress and cloak combination is very reminiscent of the tiger print dress that we saw in the first film. And finally, if you catch just a little peek at the lining inside her cloak, you see zebra print. Next is Cruella's party dress, which is one of the most beautiful dresses in the film, and is, in my opinion, one of the finest pieces of costuming Anthony Powell ever did. The dress flashes and moves, it sparkles like fire. Her skirt is lined with orange ostrich feathers, and the dress consists of thousands upon thousands of ornate hand-sewn sequins and glass beads. At the end of the film, we see Cruella, what seems to be at her height. She has one, or so she thinks. She is wearing another black and red coat, similar to the outfit we see her wearing at the end of the first film, except this time she is wearing a long black dress with thigh-high black patent leather boots, and her whole entire neck and chest is covered in red jewels. While the second film is definitely not as well written and the music really bothered me, I could not stand the soundtrack, there is no denying that this film is a masterpiece when it came to the costumes. Cruella was released on May 28, 2021. Emma Stone plays the lead character Estella, otherwise known as Cruella. The costumes were designed by Jenny Beavan, who had also designed costumes for several other Disney films, including Christopher Robin and The Nutcracker and the Four Realms. To put it bluntly, Cruella is a murky mismatch of trends, decades, and ideas. Obviously, Disney was trying to capitalize on as many trends as possible, including the female empowerment movement and the anti-hero trend. With these ideas, Cruella is transformed into a Joker meets Devil Wears Prada inspired story. With an anti-hero character, the story is meant to show the struggle and development of the character, either overcoming and controlling their evil side or slowly succumbing to it. This film did neither. It remained lukewarm, with Cruella lacking any real development, personality, or vibrancy. Both the script and the fashion fail to show her struggle to fight her inner problems. Instead, through the duration of the film, she is selfish, rude, and unlikable, insulting and manipulating everyone around her. This makes her fashion statements and achievements feel shallow and unearned. There is no denying that the costumes are beautiful. They were well made and obviously were very expensive. I'm sure that $200 million budget helped tremendously in regards to the quality of the costumes. However, again, we are confronted with confusing, mismatched ideas. Cruella is portrayed as a rebellious punk figure representing the punk movement that was happening in the 1970s. However, Cruella's everyday clothes are in no way punk. They look much more contemporary, like what a clerk would wear today if they were working at an H&M or Hot Topic. Personally, I feel that they missed several opportunities to use her fashion and hair and makeup to enhance the story and develop her character. For instance, at the beginning of the film, she dyes her hair red to hide her natural black and white locks.
Darling, red isn't your color.
I would have loved to have seen her dye her hair bright blonde, and then as the film progresses, let that dark side begin to show through to represent the dark side of her personality slowly coming through as well. When Estella changes into Cruella, her clothing is a bit more punk, but again, it doesn't feel like 1970s clothes. From her shoes, which are contemporary and pointy with thin little stiletto heels, to her actual clothing, there is a little bit of punk inspiration. However, the punk feeling, the attitude, just didn't come across. In this adaptation of Cruella, she does not wear any fur and has no interest in fur. Which begs the question, what's the point of making her Cruella if a key feature of her personality is not even there? The Baroness is supposed to contrast her by being inspired by the old establishment of 1940s and 50s fashion houses. However, she looks like an extra from Star Wars. I don't know what they were really basing her look off of. Sometimes she looks like she's from the 50s, sometimes you can see 60s and 70s inspiration, and then sometimes she looks like she's wearing a power suit from the 80s. The weirdest thing of all is that Cruella's friends are period accurate. Anita looks fabulous in 70s inspired jumpsuits and her hair styled in a beautiful afro. Jasper, Horace, and Art also look perfect for the 1970s period. Art is very artsy looking with his David Bowie inspired style. Jasper and Horace look perfect for the time period. They look like just average lads that you would see around London in the 1970s. I hope no offense is taken by the people that enjoyed this movie, and I have nothing against Emma Stone. I just don't think that she was right for the role, and no offense to the costume designer. She did an amazing job. These are beautiful garments for both men and women. I just personally feel that Disney ruined both this film and the character by trying to make Cruella out to be something she is not. She is not the Joker, she is not a hero, and she is not a good role model that young women should be patterning themselves after. I hope that you enjoyed this video. Please feel free to like, comment, and subscribe to my channel. If you would like to financially support my channel and help me continue in my work, you can give a donation through my Ko-fi page, which is linked in the description box below. Thank you so much for watching.